Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be continuing reading the entire chapter of the Bible, or the entire chapter, the entire book of the Bible. So this is going to be called A Bad Start for Israel. Now if you remember, it has been broken up by the 10 being separated and then 2 being separated. So God may keep his promise to David and his family. This is based on 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 25 through chapter 14 and verse 20. So this says, Jeroboam has been made king over the northern tribes known as Israel, and King Rehoboam rules the southern kingdom of Judah. Unfortunately for Jeroboam, the holy temple of his people is not in Israel, it's in Judah. So King Jeroboam, do you know that all the people still go to Jerusalem to worship in the temple? I know as long as they still go to Judah to worship, they will still have some allegiance to other kingdom. I don't want my subjects to have split loyalties. So he says they only go to Jerusalem because there is no temple here. And Jeroboam thinks, he says, that gives me an idea. To keep the people from worshiping in Judah, Jeroboam makes 2 golden calves. So this becomes another mistake. In order to draw people there, he makes the same mistake Solomon did. He makes the same mistake that Aaron did in making these golden calves for people to worship. They're worshiping an image. They're worshiping something that is not God. There's only one true living God, and that is Jesus Christ. And that is, the God of Abraham, the God of Moses, that God that wrote the commandments, not these golden calves. Jeroboam is making a grave mistake doing something like this. So he yells out, when our people escaped from Egypt years ago, they worship this God. Worship it now, and you will have to make the long, hard trip to Jerusalem. All this just so people won't go to Judah. Although Jeroboam was chosen by God, his idol worship wasn't. A man of God from Judah comes to Bethel to prophesy against Jeroboam. As an insult to the king, he gives prophecy directly to the symbol of the king's blasphemy. Unholy altar, a king descended from David will shatter you and execute your unholy priest. As a sign of power of the Lord, you will now break in 2 pieces. And he yells out, seize him. But the power of the Lord withers Jeroboam's hand before he can draw it back. So as he points out, seize him, regular sized hand, his whole arm shivers. And this image will give you an idea. Normal size, his hand withers away, and the golden calf behind him shatters into 2 pieces. And Jeroboam lays upon the ground, and he says, I am sorry, please ask God to heal me. Very well, you are healed, but know that God has turned his back on you and your family because you have set up altars in his high places. After being healed, Jeroboam rules for many years. Inevitably, he hopes that maybe God's anger has abated him, but then one day, our son is very ill, Jeroboam. I am worried. So his son falls, to a sickness. So am I. If only I knew, but none of God's prophets will speak to me anymore. Ahijah the prophet, he told me I would be king. He knows what will happen. Disguise yourself so that he won't recognize you, and see if you can get him to prophesy about our son. Immediately the queen disguises herself and sets out for Ahijah's house. But as she steps through the door, I am blind, but God has told me who you are and why you've come here. God gave his favor to your husband and made him king. This even shows, this man's a blind man. He's an old man. He's blind. He can't see, but God has spoke to him, told him that she would be coming, and the reason of it. But Jeroboam used that power to do evil, and evil will come to him. And as we all have failed and we've sinned against God. With each sin comes a punishment. It may not affect us, just like in this situation. It may affect us. It may not come for many years. It may come immediately. We truly don't know. Only God knows. But for each sin that we do, does come a punishment from God. His child will die, and one day the people of Israel will be conquered and scattered in other lands because they have worshipped idols. So because of their worshiping idols and this repeatedness of doing this, Solomon and with Jeroboam, the kingdom will be shattered and it will be broken apart because of their foolishness. The first part of Ahijah's prophecy comes true right away. When the queen gets home, she finds her son dead. But Jeroboam is not wise enough to heed this warning. He continues to lead his people into idol worshipping, and Israel never returns to a pure worship of the Lord. As a result, the king of Israel are plagued by war, bloodshed, and assassination for 40 years. Each king is more evil than the one before him. The king Ahab comes to the throne, and he is even worse. So instead of taking this to heart and teaching his people, to come back to God, to worship him for, maybe the little time that we have, and even doing it himself to make amends, he continues to teach his people to worship false idols. Unfortunately for him, that most likely meant that, he didn't go to paradise. He didn't go to heaven. He probably fell into hell because he continued to worship things that were not God, but that were, false, that were fake, like Dagon, like the golden calf. All these are fake. They're false idols. They're false gods. And unfortunately, this just leads into just pure destruction for over 40 years. But next, we're going to be learning about Elijah, which is going to be a great story. And I'm pretty sure this ends up having to do with Samuel as well. So we will get into that next week. Samuel, or wait, let's see, actually. I'm thinking of somebody else. Samuel had already come. We've already learned about Samuel. Sometimes it all just blends together. Samuel obviously prophesied about David, being king and stuff. But now we're going to be learning about Elijah. So he's got another great story. Another man that makes mistakes as well. Just as we saw, all these people, worshipped and loved God, and unfortunately, once they got that power and things, they fell away. Solomon is proof of that. Jeroboam's proof of that. And just mistakes happening in general. Like David, and what he done with Bathsheba, and with her son, with her husband, and things like that. So we all make mistakes. We're all always going to make mistakes, but never turn your back on God, because he can turn your back on you like he did with Jeroboam. Never worship something that isn't the one true living God. And you may have sacrifices here, but it'll all be worth it in the end. Thank you guys for watching. As always, take it easy. I'll catch you guys next week.